Hey everyone, and welcome back. So yes, today we're going to be talking about the release of a brand new TMNT game on the Nintendo Switch, and on top of it, it's going to be an arcade-style beat-em-up game. And that new game is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Arcade: Wrath of the Mutants. Now, some of you might already know about this announcement because it was actually dropped on February 28th. Unfortunately, I was on a vacation at that point. However, as soon as I got back, I knew I wanted to talk about the release. Unfortunately, if you're following the channel, you know I got sick upon my return. But you know what? I'm such a huge Turtle fan that although it's maybe a week and a half to 2 weeks late, we're still going to talk about this release because I think there are a lot of reasons that we should be hyped about this release. While at the same time, there are some major concerns here that I want to share with all of you. And ultimately, we're going to look at what those concerns are, but I seriously think this is a game you should be waiting till reviews come out before you actually pick it up. But you know what? I don't want this to just be a doom and gloom video, so before we get into those concerns, let's talk about some of the reasons we have to be hopeful about the release of this game, and at the same time, what this game actually is. Now, first of all, one of the exciting parts of this announcement is not only did we get a trailer announcing the game, we also got a solid release date, and that is April 23rd of 2024, meaning that the release date is at this point only about a month and a half away and was less than 2 months away at the moment they dropped the trailer. Personally, I get so much more excited when we have a specific time frame to look forward to, so at least on that end, it is definitely a positive aspect of this announcement. Secondly, this game is actually based off of an arcade exclusive release back from 2017. And this game was originally developed by Raw Thrills. If you don't know who they are, they brought us Cruising Blast on the Nintendo Switch. And that game was pretty solid, although they did promise to bring online play to it, which basically just never happened. But nonetheless, the base game itself was really solid, and it definitely had a very arcade-like soul to it. Now, obviously, I did look up what the comments were on the original arcade game, and ultimately, it seems to have been pretty well received, with most of the negative feedback being around the art style. And that actually isn't too surprising to me because the game is actually inspired by the 2012 version of the Turtles, which was already a pretty divisive version of the Turtles, specifically because of that art style. Gameplay-wise, however, it seems to be a very good offering, set up as a quarter muncher with really challenging gameplay. However, on the negative side, people did mention that there were only 3 levels, and the overall length was slightly disappointing. But as I said, I did promise that we would start with good news. Well, first of all, this release actually addresses that issue, doubling the number of levels with 3 additional original levels, which brings the total up to 6. And these are accompanied by 6 brand new bosses, bringing the grand total up to 13 bosses throughout the game. But not only that, the original cast from the show is actually showing up to record brand new voice lines for the game, and that's a pretty star-studded cast with the likes of Seth Green, Sean Astin, Rob Paulsen, and Greg Sipe. Moving back to the gameplay, each turtle will also have unique super moves, and from what we can see from the trailer, they do look pretty good. But not only that, we actually have the possibility to call in mutant backup with the likes of Metalhead, Leatherhead, and Bebop, and maybe even more to come. The game will also be offering 4-player local co-op. Now that is pretty respectable. Obviously, we got spoiled over the last couple of years with Shredder's Revenge offering up to 6-player local and online co-op, but you know what? 4-person local is still, as I said, respectable. And lastly, the release price of the game should actually only be $29.99 in the US and your regional equivalents, making it a pretty budget release for a licensed game. So now with all that actually going for the game, you might be wondering at this point, what concerns do you have? Well, that's what we're going to talk about next. So if we turn our attention to who is actually co-developing and publishing the game, that's where things get a little murky. Because alongside Raw Thrills, we have Cradle Games and Game Mill Entertainment. Now, first of all, if you're asking yourself, who's Cradle Games? Well, they brought us the amazing Switch hits, Hellpoint, and Jumanji Wild Adventures. Now, they aren't completely awful games, just to be totally fair, but I would call them extremely mediocre. But for me, the big red flag is Game Mill Entertainment. Now, if you don't know who they are, they've actually brought us some of the worst Switch games of the last couple of years, with awesome hits like Skull Island, Rise of Kong, Walking Dead Destinies, and even Cobra Kai 2 Rising Dojos. Now, when we're talking about bad games, we're not only talking about mediocre or disappointing games. We're talking about games that barely function. And personally, I haven't brought a lot of attention to these games on the channel because sometimes bringing a lot of attention to a game that is overtly negative might actually get people to buy it just to meme the game. And to me personally, I definitely don't want that happening because I don't want to support those type of games in any way. I do eventually plan on playing Skull Island Rise of Kong on the channel, but I wanted to wait till the sort of meme hype was over just so that we can really look at how bad that game was. And you know what's even sadder about all this? Game Mill hasn't always put out only games as crappy as they have over the last couple of years, because Cobra Kai 1 was actually pretty decent if you could get it on sale at around $10. And they were actually co-publishing Cruisin' Blast as well. As I said earlier, that is a pretty decent game. I can already hear some of you out there saying, but the publishers don't actually make the games, it's the developers, so it's the developers' fault. But the important thing to know is that publishers don't only bankroll games, they often also set timelines. And from what actually came out from the developers that worked on those last few games, apparently most of why these games actually turned out so laughably awful is that they set unrealistic development cycles, not actually caring about the quality, just wanting to push something out and hoping the license would get them some easy money. And that pressure and those timelines came from Game Mill. The developers knew it wasn't going to work, but they just didn't care. So personally, I have a lot of concern here that the same thing might happen to this Turtles game. Now, on the flip side, however, the good news is that they are using the framework of a game that has already existed and that was originally properly developed. But what I really worry about is, number one, the quality of the port to the different systems. Like, is the game going to run well on Switch or is it just going to be full of bugs? But also, I worry about the huge drop in quality for the new content. Like, is the new content going to be jarringly worse than the original content? Because I'm glad they extended the game, but if those 3 extra levels are boring or broken, you know what? I just would have rather gotten the base game itself. But I do have my fingers crossed that possibly the developers can deliver here, that maybe Raw Thrills has a big hand in the cookie jar and that they're going to pull something great out. Because I'm telling you all right now, if Game Mill screws over My Heroes in the Half Shell, there's going to be a problem. I mean, this one we cannot take lying down. They already messed with Cobra Kai, they messed with Kong, they messed with Walking Dead. Do not touch the Turtles. But the important thing here, as I said at the beginning of the video, wait till reviews come out on this game. Don't go and buy it unless we know it's been done in a decent fashion. Because if the game turns out to be bad, we have to make sure that no one supports it, to really shut these guys down from doing this kind of thing over and over again. But definitely, if they finally pulled out a pretty good game, I hope the opposite happens and everyone buys this game to show them that if they put the time in to deliver a quality product, the people are gonna buy it. Now, just as usual, let me know what you think about this release. Are you excited? Are you worried? And don't forget on the way out that if you did like the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, and click on that notification bell. And as usual, I hope I'll see you in my next video.